Boom, boom, how's going? Yeah, it's I again, your boy TJ, and today we're talking about evictions. Evictions. The other day we spoke about how one can actually hire, or should I say, allow a tenant to move into their own place whilst they are doing it themselves. So as a landlord, you can have someone else who's coming in, they knock on your door and say, hey, I'm looking for a place to stay. And you just come in and you let them live in. That is a recipe for disaster for evictions because you know very little about them. My suggestion is that at any given time, there are tools out there that you can utilize. Tools like TPN, tools like Xpello. All of these tools are there to enable you that you never ever need to evict anyone. But anyway, let's assume everything has gone south. Everything has gone south. And now you need to evict. I want to speak today about a different process now in terms of where this individual now is saying, I am going nowhere, I'm not paying rent, and you have lost control. Number one, if you have to jump on into TPN, there is processes in which you need to be following to evict someone. So let's assume that you're not going to go the route of an Xpello because you think that, you can't afford it, or you think that you can evict them with the best for bet, and all of those things. But bearing in mind, we are in the hours of COVID as we are right now. So in some cases, we might not be able to evict the way we want to evict or as fast as we want to do. Or even the government might even say there are no tenants that are being evicted. All of those things have been happening in recent times. So double check whether you can evict or you cannot evict in the time of the COVID that we are in. Right, so that is number one. Let's go on to number two. So at the moment, this person is now staying in your property. They're not paying rent. They are using your water and electricity, and maybe, and hopefully, you are not on the same property. If you're on the same property, I always think it is the most painful thing. But maybe let's talk about it. You're on the same property, they're not paying rent, then what? However, if you ever need to evict them, now the question is, you now need to evict them. And at this junction, they are in your property and you have actually now gone in, and all of these guys, they are now staying in your property as we have actually spoke about. So now how do you evict them? Right. They are there, they are already in there, and potentially they're utilizing your water, your rates and taxes, electricity, and all of those things, they are going up. I always say that from an electricity perspective, just have prepaid waters, right? Prepaid meters, and within these prepaid meters, they are going to be buying the prepaids for themselves. Tamper-proof, I always say. Also on the water, you can implement the same thing. Now, I know that we have been talking about, evicting, and we're talking about the process actually of evicting here, but we haven't actually now dealt with the eviction part of it. This is the process before the eviction. So what now, or how do you now physically evict? Again, I'm going to say, get onto the TPN website. Yes, it does sound like I'm promoting them, but they are the best tools available. Now, but I also want to speak to another point, and this is a different point, and this is something that I like to do. What is this? When you've got tenants that are staying at your property, and these are tenants already that are in the building, they are there, you inherited them, or it doesn't matter whether you didn't inherit them, but they are there, and now you are wanting to evict them. The first thing that I always say, try to understand, be in the position of this person, right? Be in the position of this person. Try to be in their shoes as the landlord. I know for some of you, you don't want to be in their shoes. Okay, great. But the reality is that for you to be able to understand someone's position, be in their shoes. What is the problem? Are they unemployed? Do they not just want to pay rent? Is it someone who's expecting rent from someone else and then someone else is not paying them? What's going on? If you understand them, you are better able to help them and you are better able to evict them. What do I mean by that? Long before we even get to the paperwork and getting through to the courts and all of those things, I always say, if you understand your tenant, you can then be able, number one, to help them, or number two, you can be able to evict them easier. What do I mean by that? You don't have to bring in the red barretas all the time. You don't have to have the hardcore position all the time. Now, let me give you a story. I had these guys, about 10 of them, that were staying in our building. This is 10 families. And we realized that the reality is that they were just taking advantage of us, right? That was the reality. But in actual cases, there were some people who were seriously actually have no employment. But in some cases, they actually had a mob psychology. A lot of them actually now had one ringleader. But guess what? This ringleader was actually employed. So there was no reason why we shouldn't be paying his rent. So I started negotiating with the ringleader for him to pay his rent, and he started paying. So that diffused the whole situation of the mob psychology. So for him, I started now saying he needs to pay the rent, but I still pressed on and everyone else being evicted. I started engaging with the people directly. Can you engage with the people? If the answer is yes, then you stand to be in a good position, because what you're now starting to do is to engage directly with them, negotiating. What can you give? What can you take away? For anything that you're going to give, you need to take away. So for instance, I am going to say, okay, fine, I'm going to give you free water or free electricity for as long as you're going to be moving out on end of the month. If you don't move until the end of the month, hey, I am going to reintroduce my prepaid water and electricity. That's something that you can utilize. Okay, fine. That's step number one of negotiating. Step number two of the negotiation is that, hey, I can help you to move out. Can I help you to move out? Because maybe you don't have the means to move out, but you're going somewhere else. So I'm going to pay for your transport for you to move out, which is going to be very much cheaper compared to going to court. So I'm going to pay your transport, and I am going to pay your transport if you're going to be moving by end of the month. Again, give and take. The other one is that I can help you to pay your deposit where you are going, and I can give in a good report on where you are going. And I won't mention that you've been a bad tenant. Ooh, am I becoming a bad guy for the community of investors? Well, you can take it the way you want to take it. I am protecting what is my own. Out of that, what I can also do, I can then say, I will pay you the deposit only after you have moved out, right? Or I can pay you some money to actually move out. How about paying some people so that they can move out? These are some of the tricks and tips that I think that they can be able to help you. They have helped me in the past to get rid of some people, undesirable people that are staying in my buildings, without me having to go through all the way to the eviction, through the courts and all of those things, which I am going to be covering in my next couple of videos around evictions. It's a painful exercise, but I promise you, if you are to follow these strategies that I've given you here, you might never need to go to court. But it all takes engagement. Engagement, knowing that you are at a weaker position from a low perspective, but how can you actually engage these people so that you can get what you want, to be in control of your property again? If you're talking about 10 tenants, I've done it with about 20 tenants, right? So it can be done. If one person, remove emotions around it, try to stick to what you want and what are you giving away versus what you're wanting to take. It's not just about, hoo-ha, I'm pushing you out of my property. But remember, these are all people as well. They might be facing a much bigger challenge than you are. So let's try to have some Ubuntu around it. It is I, your boy, TJ. We'll check you out in the next video.